Hello, friend, and welcome back to Science for Sleep. There is a quiet question that many people carry with them, often without ever saying it out loud. It tends to appear in small moments rather than as a clear thought. It shows up after social time has ended, when the body feels heavier than expected. It lingers in the space between conversations, when relief arrives a little too quickly. The question is simple, but it can feel confusing. Why do I feel drained when others don't? Why do I need space just to feel normal again? This question is rarely asked with words. More often, it's felt as a subtle sense of difference, a noticing that time spent with people, even people you care about deeply, seems to take something out of you. Not emotionally, not dramatically, just quietly. And that noticing can lead to uncertainty, especially when it doesn't seem to match what you see in others. Around you, some people appear to gain energy from being together. Conversation seems to lift them. Activity seems to sharpen them. Their nervous systems appear to wake up in social spaces. Meanwhile, your own system may respond differently. Instead of feeling activated, you feel full. Instead of feeling charged, you feel saturated. Not overwhelmed, necessarily. Just finished. This difference can be difficult to name, because nothing obvious is wrong. You're functioning, you're participating, you're present. And yet, somewhere beneath all of that, there is a sense that something inside you is asking for quiet. Not because you dislike people, not because you want to disappear, but because your system is ready to settle. For many people, this creates a kind of internal contradiction. On one hand, connection matters. On the other, being alone feels necessary. The mind may try to explain this tension by reaching for familiar ideas, personality, social skill, mood. But those explanations often feel incomplete. They don't fully capture what's happening inside the body. If you enjoy these calm journeys through science, you're welcome to subscribe. And if you feel comfortable, you can leave a comment sharing where you're listening from tonight, because here, you're not alone. What's important to understand, and what we'll explore gently and without urgency, is that this experience is not a personal failure or a misunderstanding of yourself. It is not a sign that something needs to be fixed or trained away. It is not a preference that needs to be justified. For many people, the need for alone time is not a choice at all. It is a regulatory requirement. The nervous system is constantly balancing input and recovery. Some systems recover best through stimulation. Others recover best through quiet. Neither pattern is better. Neither pattern is more evolved. They are simply different ways the body returns to balance. If you are someone who feels most like yourself after time alone, that does not mean you are avoiding the world. It means your system resets in a quieter environment. The same way some systems reset through movement or conversation or sound, others reset through stillness and reduced input. We're not here to analyze you. We're not here to place you into a category or explain you away. We're here to offer understanding without pressure, to name a pattern that many people experience but rarely hear described calmly. As we move forward, nothing will be asked of you. There is nothing to apply, improve, or change. You don't need to listen closely, or remember anything that's said. The ideas can drift in the background, arriving and leaving at their own pace. For now, it's enough to recognize this quiet truth. Some people feel restored around others. Some people feel restored only when they're alone. And that difference is not about personality. It's about how the nervous system finds its way back to balance. You can let that understanding settle gently, without effort, as we continue. When people notice that they need more alone time than others, the explanation they're most often given is a personality one. Words like introverted or antisocial may be offered casually, sometimes kindly, sometimes not. These labels are meant to make sense of the difference, but they often miss what's actually happening. They describe behavior, not the reason behind it. Personality explains how someone tends to act. Regulation explains how the nervous system returns to balance. This distinction matters because many people who need more alone time are not withdrawn, shy, or uncomfortable with others. They can be warm, expressive, attentive, and deeply connected. They may enjoy conversation and value relationships. And still, after time spent engaging, their system asks for quiet. Not because something went wrong, but because something has been used. The nervous system does not experience social interaction as neutral. Every exchange carries information. Tone of voice, facial expression, timing, expectation, and subtle shifts in attention are all processed continuously. This processing happens whether you are enjoying yourself or not. It happens even when interactions feel easy. And for some nervous systems, this processing draws more energy than it does for others. This is where personality explanations begin to fall short. Personality suggests preference, choice, or tendency. Regulation describes cost and recovery. It describes what the system needs in order to return to its baseline state. Two people can enjoy the same social experience and walk away with very different internal states. One may feel energized and open. The other may feel calm but depleted. Neither response is a reflection of social skill or emotional health. They are reflections of how much regulation the experience required. When the need for alone time is framed as personality, people often feel pressure to override it. They may tell themselves they should be able to keep going, or that needing space means they are lacking something. This creates a subtle form of self-judgment that doesn't match reality. The system is not failing. It is responding accurately to its own needs. Understanding this difference allows the experience to be held more gently. Instead of asking, "Why am I like this?" the question shifts quietly to, "How does my system reset?" That question does not carry blame. It carries curiosity, and it does not require an answer right away. This video is not interested in sorting people into types. It is interested in describing patterns of regulation that exist across many kinds of people. Patterns that are often overlooked because they are quiet and internal. Needing more alone time is not a social identity. It is not a statement about who you are with others. It is simply a reflection of how your nervous system returns to equilibrium after stimulation. As this idea settles, it may already feel relieving to let go of the assumption that something about you needs to be redefined. Nothing is being explained away. Nothing is being reduced. The experience is being understood at its source. You can let that understanding rest here for a moment. There is no need to hold on to it tightly. It can stay in the background as we continue, gently shaping how the rest of this quiet exploration unfolds. Every social environment asks something of the brain, even when it feels calm or familiar. This asking is not loud or demanding. It happens quietly, beneath awareness, as the nervous system continuously takes in information and adjusts to it. Conversation, presence, and shared space all require a steady stream of processing that never fully pauses while others are around. When you are with people, the brain is tracking tone of voice, facial expression, timing, and subtle shifts in attention. It notices when someone pauses, when a sentence changes direction, when energy rises or falls. Even silence carries information. None of this requires conscious effort, but it does require ongoing regulation. The system stays active so interaction can remain smooth. This activity does not depend on whether the interaction is enjoyable. Even pleasant social experiences require monitoring and adjustment. The brain remains oriented outward, making small corrections, maintaining awareness of how things are unfolding. It does this automatically because social connection depends on responsiveness. For some nervous systems, this level of processing is relatively easy to sustain. The energy cost remains low, and the system can stay engaged without strain. For others, the same level of engagement uses more internal resources, not because the person is doing anything differently, but because their system allocates more attention to input. This difference often goes unnoticed because it doesn't always show up as discomfort. It shows up as fullness, as a sense that something has reached capacity. The system is still functioning, still responsive, but it is also nearing the point where recovery will be needed. Importantly, this processing continues even when nothing is being said. Simply being perceived can require regulation. Awareness of others in the room, the possibility of interaction, and the expectation of response all keep the nervous system engaged. The brain does not fully stand down while social presence remains. This is why time spent around others can feel quietly taxing even when everything goes well. The system has been active the entire time, coordinating, adjusting, and maintaining alignment. When that activity continues without interruption, the need for rest increases naturally. Alone time changes this dynamic. When no one else is present, the brain no longer needs to track social signals. It does not have to anticipate response or maintain awareness of external attention. Processing load drops, not because effort is being applied, but because effort is no longer required. Understanding this helps reframe the experience of needing space. It is not that social time is harmful or unwanted. It is that the system has been working continuously, and work requires recovery. For some people, that recovery happens best when the source of stimulation is fully removed. There is nothing unusual about this pattern. It is simply one way a nervous system manages input and output. When the system has processed enough, it asks for conditions that allow it to settle. As this idea rests in the background, it may become easier to notice the quiet signals the body gives when processing has been sustained for too long. Those signals are not warnings, they are requests, and they can be met gently without explanation or urgency. as we continue exploring how different systems return to balance. If social life requires constant processing, the next quiet question is why that processing seems to cost more for some people than for others. This difference is rarely obvious from the outside. Two people can be sitting in the same room, having the same conversation, appearing equally engaged, while their nervous systems are doing very different amounts of work beneath the surface. Every brain filters and prioritizes input slightly differently. Some nervous systems naturally narrow their focus, allowing certain details to pass by without being fully processed. Others take in more of what's present. They register tone more precisely, notice subtle shifts more quickly, and hold more contextual information at once. This depth of processing happens automatically. It is not chosen, and it is not learned through effort. When a system processes input more thoroughly, it uses more energy, not because it is inefficient, but because it is detailed. Social environments are rich with layered information, and a system that takes in more of that richness will reach its limit sooner. This is not a flaw. It is a characteristic of how that system interacts with the world. This difference often shows up as sensitivity. But sensitivity here does not mean fragility. It means responsiveness. The system responds fully to what is present instead of filtering it down aggressively. That responsiveness can be a strength in many contexts, allowing for empathy, awareness, and nuance. But it also means recovery becomes more important. Because this processing happens quietly, people who experience it often underestimate its cost. They may assume they should be able to continue simply because they appear calm or capable. From the outside, nothing looks strained. Inside, however, the system is gradually approaching saturation. This is why the need for alone time can arrive without warning. There may be no clear moment of overwhelm. Instead, there is a soft internal signal that says enough. Enough input, enough adjustment, enough outward attention. The body is not asking for escape. It is asking for a reduction in load. Importantly, this pattern does not disappear with familiarity. Being around people you know well can still require significant processing. The brain continues to track subtle cues, emotional tone, and relational context. Comfort does not eliminate input. It simply changes its texture. When this higher processing cost is misunderstood, people often blame themselves. They may believe they are lacking endurance or resilience. But resilience is not about ignoring limits. It is about respecting how the system recovers. A nervous system that processes deeply needs deeper rest. Alone time provides that rest by removing layers of input all at once. Without conversation, observation, or expectation, the system no longer needs to maintain its detailed awareness. Energy expenditure drops naturally. The brain does not have to work to relax. It relaxes because the work has ended. This understanding reframes the need for space as a form of efficiency rather than avoidance. The system knows when it has processed enough. It signals for conditions that allow it to reset. When those conditions are met, balance returns more smoothly. You don't need to measure this difference or name it precisely. It's enough to know that nervous systems vary in how much they take in, and that variation shapes how much recovery is needed afterward. Nothing about this requires correction. As we continue, this idea will remain in the background, quietly explaining why some people feel most restored, not by more interaction, but by its gentle absence. When the need for alone time appears, it's often misunderstood as a desire to get away. From the outside, it can look like withdrawal or avoidance, as though something is being rejected. But from the inside, the experience is very different. The system is not trying to leave anything behind. It is trying to return to itself. Escape implies running from discomfort. Recovery implies restoring balance. For many people who need more alone time, the pull toward quiet is not driven by distress, but by completion. The nervous system has taken in enough. It has processed enough. It is ready to release the constant outward orientation that social environments require. This distinction matters because escape carries judgment. It suggests fear, avoidance, or lack of capacity. Recovery carries neutrality. It recognizes that effort has been expended and rest is now needed. The body does not frame this as a problem. It frames it as timing. Alone time allows the system to stop tracking. There is no one to read, no tone to adjust to, no expectation to anticipate. Attention no longer needs to remain partially external. This is not a collapse. It is a settling. The nervous system moves from active regulation into passive restoration. Importantly, this shift does not require emotional intensity. A person may feel calm, content, and connected, and still need to be alone afterward. The need does not contradict the experience that came before it. It completes it. Social engagement opens the system outward. Alone time allows it to close gently again. This is why alone time often feels relieving rather than dramatic. There is no surge of emotion, no clear release. Just a sense of things easing back into place. The brain no longer has to distribute attention across multiple channels. It can return to a narrower, quieter field. Misunderstanding this process can create internal conflict. People may tell themselves they shouldn't need space, especially if nothing went wrong. They may push past their natural stopping point, believing that rest should only follow difficulty. But the nervous system does not measure recovery based on difficulty. It measures it based on load. Load accumulates quietly. It builds through attention, presence, and responsiveness. When the system senses that load has reached its limit, it asks for conditions that allow it to unwind. Alone time provides those conditions by removing stimulation at its source. There is no urgency in this request. The system does not demand immediate withdrawal. It simply signals a preference for less noise, less input, less outward focus. When that preference is honored, regulation resumes without resistance. This is why framing alone time as escape misses its function. The system is not running from people. It is moving toward equilibrium. The quiet is not a hiding place. It is a reset point. As this understanding settles, it may become easier to notice how natural the pull toward quiet really is. It does not require explanation or justification. It does not need to be defended. It arises when recovery is due. You can let that idea rest here gently. Alone time is not something you retreat into. It is something you return to, allowing the system to close its loops and restore itself at its own pace, without urgency and without anything needing to be wrong first. When people think about stimulation, they often imagine obvious things: loud sounds, busy environments, constant activity. But for the nervous system, stimulation is much broader and much quieter than that. It includes anything that requires the brain to remain oriented outward, attentive or responsive, even when the environment feels calm. Conversation is one form of stimulation, but it's not the only one. Being listened to is stimulation. Being watched is stimulation. Even the simple awareness that someone might speak to you at any moment keeps part of the nervous system alert. The brain stays ready, holding a subtle tension of preparedness that does not always register consciously. Eye contact is another form of stimulation. It carries information and expectation. Tone of voice carries meaning beyond words. Small pauses, shifts in expression, changes in energy, all register automatically. None of this is overwhelming on its own. But together, these inputs create a steady stream of information that the system must continuously process. Expectation itself is also stimulation. The possibility that you may need to respond, react, or adjust keeps the nervous system engaged. Even when nothing is happening, the readiness for something to happen maintains a low level of activation. The system does not fully rest while anticipation remains. This is why environments that appear quiet on the surface can still feel taxing. A calm room with other people in it still contains layers of input. The brain is aware of presence. It is aware of attention. It is aware of potential interaction. That awareness requires energy. For some nervous systems, this level of stimulation remains comfortably within range. For others, it brings the system closer to its threshold without ever crossing into discomfort. The person may feel fine, capable, and present, while still accumulating load beneath the surface. Understanding stimulation in this broader way helps explain why alone time can feel restorative, even when nothing loud or stressful was happening before. It's not that the environment was difficult. It's that the system never fully stood down. When you are truly alone, many of these forms of stimulation disappear at once. There is no expectation, no observation, no readiness required. The nervous system is finally allowed to move out of its alert state, even if that alertness was gentle and quiet. This reduction is not dramatic. It often feels like a subtle internal shift, a sense of pressure easing, a feeling of spaciousness returning. The brain is no longer juggling small signals. It can settle into a simpler rhythm. Nothing about this means stimulation is bad or unwanted. It is simply something the nervous system manages continuously, and for some systems, that management costs more energy than it does for others. As this idea rests here, it may become easier to recognize why your system asks for space even after calm interactions. Stimulation does not need to be intense to be real, and recovery does not need a crisis to be valid. You can allow that understanding to stay in the background as we continue, quietly shaping how everything that follows makes sense. every nervous system operates within a range of stimulation that feels manageable. Within that range, attention can move freely, emotions stay steady, and the body remains comfortable. Outside of it, even gently, the system begins to work harder to maintain balance. These ranges are not the same for everyone. Some nervous systems are built to tolerate high levels of input for long periods of time. They can remain engaged, responsive, and oriented outward without feeling taxed. Others reach their upper limit sooner, not because they are fragile, but because they are processing more of what is present. The limit is not about capacity in general. It is about how quickly energy is used. These limits are not fixed judgments about strength or resilience. They are simply points where regulation shifts from being easy to requiring effort. When a system approaches its limit, it doesn't announce itself loudly. It doesn't shut down. It continues functioning, often very well, while quietly signaling that recovery will soon be needed. Because these limits are internal, they are easy to overlook. From the outside, everything may look fine. The person is participating, responding, and present. Inside, however, the nervous system is nearing saturation. The signal for alone time is not dramatic. It is subtle, steady, and persistent. This is why comparing yourself to others can be misleading. You are not seeing their internal regulation, and they are not seeing yours. What looks like ease on the outside does not tell the full story of what is happening within a system. Each nervous system is working with its own thresholds. Importantly, these limits are not something to push through repeatedly without consequence. When a system is asked to operate beyond its comfortable range too often, recovery becomes harder. The signals for rest become stronger. Sleep may take longer to arrive. The system holds onto activation longer than it needs to. Alone time allows these limits to be respected without explanation. It creates a condition where the system can move back into its optimal range naturally. There is no need to force relaxation or override activation. The environment does the work by reducing input. Understanding this can soften self-judgment. Needing more space does not mean you are behind or less capable. It means your nervous system reaches its limits sooner and recovers best when stimulation drops completely. As this idea settles, it may feel relieving to stop measuring yourself against environments or people that were never calibrated to your system in the first place. There is no universal threshold to meet. There is only the one your body already knows. You can let that knowledge rest quietly here. Nothing needs to be adjusted or applied. It's enough to recognize that limits differ, and that honoring them allows the system to return to balance more smoothly, without urgency, and without anything needing to be wrong. One of the reasons this need for alone time can feel confusing is because it is rarely visible. The work the nervous system is doing does not announce itself. There are no obvious signs that something is being expended. No clear moment where capacity drops or effort becomes visible. Everything continues to look functional, both to others and often to yourself. Social regulation happens quietly. The brain adjusts in real time, making thousands of small corrections without drawing attention to them. Because these adjustments are automatic, they don't feel like effort in the way physical work does. There is no clear sensation of strain. Instead, There is simply a gradual movement toward fullness, a sense that the system has taken in enough. This is why many people don't recognize their need for recovery until they are already past it. The signals are subtle. A desire for silence, a pull toward stillness, a feeling of relief at the thought of being alone. These cues are easy to dismiss because nothing feels wrong yet. The system is still operating smoothly. From the outside, this invisibility creates misunderstanding. Others may not see any reason for withdrawal or quiet. They may assume that if someone looks calm and capable, they must also be energized. But internal regulation does not mirror external appearance. A system can be composed while still being depleted. This mismatch can also happen internally. People may tell themselves they shouldn't need rest because they don't feel stressed or overwhelmed. They may believe recovery should only follow difficulty or conflict. But the nervous system does not wait for distress to request rest. It responds to load, not to visible struggle. Because this form of recovery is invisible, it is rarely acknowledged or normalized. There are few external signals that say it's time to stop engaging and start settling. Instead, the world tends to reward continued participation. Staying present, staying responsive, staying available. For someone whose system needs quiet to reset, this can create a slow accumulation of fatigue that doesn't have an obvious source. Over time, this invisibility can lead to self-doubt. People may wonder why they feel tired when nothing tiring seems to have happened. They may question their own resilience or assume they are doing something wrong. In reality, the system has simply been regulating continuously, without interruption. Understanding this helps remove the mystery. Nothing is failing. Nothing is lagging behind. The nervous system has been doing exactly what it is designed to do, responding to input moment by moment. The need for alone time is not a reaction to crisis. It is a response to sustained engagement. As this idea rests here, it may become easier to trust the quieter signals your body sends. They don't need to be dramatic to be valid. They don't need justification. They arise because the system knows when it has processed enough. You can let that recognition settle gently, without needing to act on it right now. Simply knowing that this need can exist quietly and invisibly is enough for the moment, as we continue moving forward at an unhurried pace. For many people who need more alone time, there is a noticeable shift that happens later in the day. As evening arrives and the world grows quieter, a sense of relief begins to appear. The body feels less braced. The mind feels more spacious. It's not always dramatic, but it's recognizable. Something eases. This change is not about nighttime itself. It's about what fades as night arrives. Conversations slow. Messages stop coming. Expectations loosen. The nervous system is no longer required to stay oriented outward in the same way. The steady stream of input that filled the day begins to thin. Throughout the day, even quiet moments often carry the possibility of interruption. The brain stays partially alert, ready to respond if needed. At night, that readiness becomes less necessary. The environment offers fewer signals that require attention. The system finally receives consistent information that nothing is being asked of it. As stimulation drops, the nervous system begins to settle naturally. This settling is not something that has to be practiced or controlled. It happens on its own when the conditions are right. Less sound, less movement, less social presence. Together, these changes allow internal activity to slow without effort. For people whose systems are especially responsive to input, this reduction can feel like returning to themselves. The sense of being watched or needed dissolves. Attention no longer has to be divided. Awareness becomes quieter and less scattered. The body recognizes that it can finally stand down. This is why nighttime can feel like the first moment of the day when breathing deepens and thoughts soften. Not because the day was bad, but because it was full. The system has been active for hours, and only now does it have space to release that activity. Importantly, this relief is often misunderstood. It can look like a preference for being awake at night, or a tendency toward late hours. In reality, it is a response to reduced stimulation. The nervous system is not choosing night. It is responding to quiet. Understanding this helps explain why some people feel most regulated when the world is asleep. The absence of demand allows the system to return to baseline. Nothing needs to be monitored. Nothing needs to be anticipated. The brain no longer has to hold itself open. As this idea settles, it may become easier to see nighttime relief as information rather than habit. It is the system signaling that conditions are finally right for recovery. And that signal does not mean something about the day was wrong. It simply means the system has reached a place where it can begin to rest. You can allow that understanding to remain gentle and backgrounded as we continue. There is no need to analyze it further. It's enough to recognize that when stimulation fades, regulation follows, often quietly, often after dark. As the night deepens and stimulation continues to fall away, something subtle begins to happen inside the nervous system. It does not arrive all at once, and it does not announce itself clearly. Instead, it unfolds gradually, almost cautiously, as if the system is checking whether the quiet will last. When the quiet remains, moment after moment, the system begins to trust it. This is often the point when many people notice a familiar feeling returning. Not excitement, not relief in a dramatic sense, just a sense of steadiness that had been missing. The background tension that held the body slightly upright throughout the day begins to loosen. Attention no longer feels stretched outward. Awareness no longer feels divided between what is happening now and what might be required next. The space that opens here is not about distance from others. It is not physical isolation. It is the absence of demand, the absence of expectation, the absence of being perceived, monitored, or needed. When these layers are removed consistently, the nervous system no longer has to remain partially alert. It can finally shift into a state where regulation happens without effort. As this shift unfolds, internal experience often changes in quiet, almost imperceptible ways. Thoughts become less insistent. They may still appear, but they no longer pull attention forward. Emotions soften, not because they are suppressed, but because the system no longer needs to amplify them. Sensations feel easier to hold without reaction. Everything moves more slowly, and nothing feels urgent. This settling is not something the mind creates intentionally. It happens because the conditions allow it. Throughout the day, the brain allocates resources toward monitoring, adjusting, and responding. When those tasks are no longer required, those resources naturally return inward. Regulation becomes simpler, less layered, and less demanding. For people who need more alone time, this space is essential rather than optional. Without it, the nervous system remains partially open, holding onto activation even when the body is tired. With it, the system finally receives enough consistency to complete its regulatory cycle. Nothing new is being added. Nothing old is being pushed away. The system is simply finishing what it started. This is why quiet alone time at night can feel deeply restorative, even when nothing specific is done during it. There does not need to be intention or structure. The nervous system does not require guidance in order to settle. It requires uninterrupted low stimulation. Space itself performs the work. Understanding this can gently release any pressure to use quiet time productively. The value of this space does not come from how it is used. It comes from how little is required within it. When the environment remains unchanged long enough, the system recognizes that it can finally let go. As this sense of space continues, the body follows along naturally. Breathing becomes slower without being controlled. Muscles release without being directed. The subtle feeling of holding oneself together begins to dissolve. The system no longer prepares for the next moment. It remains where it is. You do not need to notice this happening. You do not need to track or encourage it. The nervous system already knows how to respond when space is available. You can allow this process to unfold quietly on its own, knowing that this settling is not something to achieve, but something that arrives naturally when there is finally enough room for it. Because this settling happens quietly, it is easy to misread what it means. From the outside, the relief that arrives in low stimulation moments can look like preference or habit. It can seem as though someone simply likes being alone more, or functions better at certain times of day. But what's actually happening is less about choice and more about timing. When the nervous system finally has space, it responds by settling. That response can be mistaken for comfort with solitude itself, rather than relief from constant input. The difference matters. One is a preference. The other is a biological response to reduced stimulation. Without understanding this distinction, the experience is often explained in ways that don't quite fit. People may assume they are more productive at night, or more focused when alone, or somehow more themselves in quiet environments. These explanations are not wrong, but they are incomplete. They describe the outcome, not the cause. The cause is that the system has finally reached a state where regulation is possible. This misunderstanding can lead to subtle pressure. People may feel they should adapt to daytime energy or social rhythms, even when those rhythms leave their system perpetually active. They may try to force focus earlier or extend engagement longer, believing that comfort should arrive on a schedule. When it doesn't, self-doubt can quietly take root. The world tends to reward visible energy. Alertness, responsiveness, and outward engagement are often treated as signs of health and capacity. Quiet settling is rarely recognized as a legitimate form of regulation. Because of this, people whose systems reset through low stimulation may feel out of step without knowing why. This is especially true at night. Feeling most like yourself after dark can be misinterpreted as avoidance of the day or resistance to structure. In reality, it is often the first moment when the system is no longer managing constant input. Relief appears not because of darkness, but because demand has dropped. When this pattern is misunderstood, people may attempt to correct it. They may try to stay stimulated longer, override the need for quiet, or treat alone time as something to earn rather than something required. These efforts rarely lead to greater ease. Instead, they extend activation and delay rest. Understanding what's actually happening removes that pressure. The system is not out of alignment. It is responding accurately to the environment it is in. When stimulation decreases, regulation increases. When demand fades, balance returns. This reframing allows the experience to be held more gently. There is no need to interpret the need for space as a trait or a tendency. It does not need to say anything about who you are. It simply reflects how your nervous system moves back toward baseline. You can let that understanding sit quietly here. There is nothing to apply or change. Recognizing that this response is often misunderstood is enough to soften the edges around it, allowing the system to continue settling without the added weight of explanation or expectation. Because the need for alone time is so often misunderstood, it becomes important to clarify what it is not. One of the most common confusions is between being alone and being disconnected. On the surface, these two states can appear similar. In reality, they serve very different functions in the nervous system. Disconnection is the absence of meaningful contact. It is what happens when the system longs for connection, but cannot access it. This state often carries tension, restlessness, or a sense of being cut off. The nervous system remains alert in disconnection, scanning for something that is missing. There is an openness that does not close, an engagement that has nowhere to land. Alone time, on the other hand, is the absence of stimulation. It is not a loss of connection, but a pause in input. The nervous system does not remain open and searching. It begins to close its loops. Attention turns inward, not because something is missing, but because nothing is being asked of it. This distinction matters deeply because people who need more alone time are often assumed to be avoiding connection. In reality, many of them value connection intensely. They may listen deeply, care strongly, and feel relationships very fully. The need for space does not reduce that capacity. It supports it. Connection requires energy. Presence requires regulation. When a nervous system spends energy maintaining connection, it eventually needs a period where that energy is restored. Alone time provides that restoration by removing the continuous requirement to attend, respond, and adjust. This is why a person can feel close to others and still need time away from them. The desire for quiet does not cancel the desire for connection. It exists alongside it. One supports the other. Without recovery, connection becomes harder to sustain. When this distinction is blurred, people often feel unnecessary guilt. They may worry that wanting space means they are withdrawing emotionally or failing relationally. But the nervous system does not make moral judgments. It responds to load. When load decreases, regulation improves. Understanding alone time as a pause in stimulation, rather than a break in connection, allows the experience to feel safer. The system no longer has to defend its need for space. It can simply take it, knowing that connection is not being lost, only rested. This framing also helps remove urgency. Disconnection tends to feel sharp and immediate. Alone time feels slow and settling. One keeps the system alert, the other allows it to soften. Learning to feel the difference can bring relief, not because anything changes, but because the experience finally makes sense. As this understanding settles, it may become easier to notice that your need for space does not pull you away from others. It brings you back to yourself. And from that steadier place, connection remains intact, quieter perhaps, but more sustainable. You can let this distinction rest here gently. There is no need to decide anything about it. Simply knowing that alone time and disconnection are not the same allows the nervous system to continue settling without confusion, as we move forward slowly and without urgency. One of the most difficult parts of needing more alone time is how easily it can be misread, both by others and by the person experiencing it. Wanting space is often assumed to mean wanting less connection, less closeness, or less involvement. But for many nervous systems, the opposite is true. Space is not a movement away from people. It is what allows connection to remain intact. Connection requires presence. Presence requires regulation. And regulation requires energy. When a system spends extended time engaged with others, even in caring and meaningful ways, that energy is being used continuously. Wanting space afterward is not a rejection of what just happened. It is what allows the system to recover from it. This is why many people who need more alone time also feel things deeply. They notice subtle shifts. They pick up on emotional tone. They remain attentive in ways that may not be visible but are very real. That depth of engagement is part of what makes connection meaningful for them. It is also what makes recovery necessary. Distance, in the emotional sense, creates a sense of separation. It leaves the nervous system open and searching. Wanting space does the opposite. It allows the system to close gently, to finish processing what has already occurred. The connection does not disappear during this time. It settles. This distinction is important because without it, people often feel torn between their needs and their values. They may believe that wanting space means they care less, or that they are failing at closeness. Over time, this belief can create quiet guilt, even when relationships are healthy and supportive. The nervous system does not operate on symbolic meaning. It does not interpret alone time as abandonment or distance. It interprets it as reduced demand. When demand decreases, regulation improves. When regulation improves, emotional clarity returns. And when clarity returns, connection becomes easier to sustain. This is why forcing continued interaction past the point of regulation rarely leads to deeper connection. The system becomes strained. Attention thins. Presence becomes effortful. What looks like togetherness on the surface may feel increasingly hollow internally. Space, taken at the right time, prevents that erosion. Wanting space does not erase care. It preserves it. It allows the system to return to a state where connection feels natural rather than managed. The need for alone time is not a contradiction of closeness. It is one of the ways closeness is maintained over time. For many people, this understanding arrives slowly. They may only recognize it after years of pushing past their limits, wondering why relationships feel draining despite being meaningful. When the need for space is finally respected, something shifts. Engagement feels lighter. Presence feels less costly. The nervous system is no longer operating on borrowed energy. This does not mean withdrawing indefinitely. It means allowing cycles, engagement followed by quiet, presence followed by restoration. These cycles are not failures of connection. They are how some systems keep connection alive. As this idea settles, it may feel relieving to let go of the assumption that space and closeness are opposites. They are part of the same process. One opens the system, the other allows it to close again. You don't need to explain this to anyone. You don't need to justify it. The nervous system already understands what it needs in order to stay regulated and connected. Recognizing that wanting space does not mean wanting distance allows that need to exist without conflict. You can let this understanding rest gently here. It does not need to be acted on or defended. It is simply a quieter truth about how some systems maintain connection, by knowing when to step back so they can return whole, present, and able to engage again when the time is right. Understanding the difference between needing space and wanting distance is not just a matter of language. It changes how the experience is carried inside the body. When the two are confused, the nervous system often adds an extra layer of tension, one that doesn't come from stimulation itself, but from misinterpretation. When someone believes their need for alone time means something is wrong, the system stays partially alert even during quiet. Instead of settling, it watches itself. It questions its own signals. The mind tries to evaluate whether the need is reasonable, justified, or excessive. This self-monitoring becomes another form of stimulation, preventing full recovery from ever taking place. That is why this distinction matters so deeply. Alone time only works as recovery when it is allowed to be what it is. If it is treated as a problem to solve or a behavior to correct, the nervous system does not fully stand down. Quiet becomes conditional instead of restorative. Many people who need more alone time carry an unspoken pressure to explain themselves. They may feel the need to soften the request for space, to apologize for it, or to frame it as temporary. This pressure does not come from the body. It comes from the fear of being misunderstood. And that fear keeps the system active even in silence. When alone time is recognized as a pause in stimulation, rather than a break in connection, that pressure eases. The nervous system no longer has to defend its own regulation. It can simply move toward balance without carrying additional emotional weight. This understanding also protects against internalizing false narratives. Without it, people may begin to see themselves as inconsistent, unreliable, or emotionally distant. They may wonder why they seem to need something others do not. Over time, this questioning can turn into quiet self-doubt, even when nothing about their behavior is harmful or avoidant. In reality, what is happening is very simple. the system is responding to load. When load is reduced, regulation improves. There is no hidden meaning behind this response. It does not point to emotional deficiency or relational difficulty. It points to how the nervous system restores itself. This matters especially in moments of transition, when social time ends and quiet begins. If that transition is interpreted negatively, the system carries tension forward. If it is interpreted neutrally, the system releases more easily. The meaning assigned to alone time shapes how effective it is. At night, this effect becomes even more important. The body is already moving toward rest. The nervous system is looking for signs that it can slow down completely. When alone time is accepted without judgment, those signs become clearer. The system does not need to stay vigilant. It receives permission to descend. Understanding this distinction also allows people to trust their rhythms more fully. Instead of questioning whether they are doing something wrong by needing space, they can simply notice when the system begins to settle. That settling becomes information, not something to override. Nothing about this requires action or explanation. It does not need to be communicated outwardly to be valid. The nervous system does not need external approval to regulate properly. It only needs conditions that allow it to complete its cycle. As this idea rests here, it may quietly reduce some of the background tension that often accompanies alone time. The system no longer needs to justify itself. It no longer needs to stay alert for misunderstanding. Quiet can simply be quiet. You can let this understanding remain gently in the background as we continue. It does not demand attention. It does not require agreement. It simply creates space for regulation to happen without interference, allowing the nervous system to settle more fully, one moment at a time. One of the reasons the need for alone time is so easily misunderstood is because the recovery it provides is almost completely invisible. From the outside, it does not look like effort. It does not look productive. It does not create anything that can be measured or shown. It often looks like nothing is happening at all. In a world that tends to value visible output, this can be confusing. Movement is easy to recognize. Conversation is easy to recognize. Even stress is easy to recognize. Quiet recovery is not. It leaves no clear trace. There is no obvious before and after moment that signals something important has occurred. The nervous system simply returns closer to baseline, quietly and without announcement. Because of this invisibility, people who need alone time often feel out of sync with what is rewarded. They may notice that others seem energized by activity, interaction, and momentum. Meanwhile, their own system begins to settle only when activity stops. The contrast can create uncertainty, especially when rest does not look like effort. Quiet recovery does not involve solving a problem or achieving a state. It involves the absence of demand. The nervous system is not doing something in the usual sense. It is undoing something. It is releasing activation that has accumulated over time. This release cannot be rushed or optimized. It only happens when stimulation remains low long enough for the system to trust it. This is why quiet recovery often feels undeserved. There is no clear justification for it. Nothing has gone wrong. No crisis has occurred. And yet the system asks for space anyway. Without visible strain to point to, people may question whether they truly need rest or whether they should continue engaging. The nervous system, however, does not operate on visible markers. It responds to internal load. Load accumulates through attention, responsiveness, and presence. When that load reaches a certain point, recovery becomes necessary regardless of whether it looks earned from the outside. Because quiet recovery produces no obvious signal, it is easy to interrupt. Messages arrive. Sounds intrude. Expectations resurface. The system begins to re-engage before it has fully settled. Over time, this pattern can create a sense that rest never quite works, when in reality, it is never allowed to complete. This can lead to a subtle form of exhaustion that is hard to name. The body may feel tired, but not in a way that sleep alone resolves. The mind may feel busy, but not in a way that activity helps. What is missing is not stimulation or distraction. It is uninterrupted absence of demand. When quiet recovery is misunderstood, people may try to replace it with something more visible. Structured relaxation, intentional routines, gentle productivity. These may help in some ways, but they still require engagement. The nervous system remains active, managing the activity itself. True quiet recovery does not ask the system to do anything. It removes what the system has been doing all along. This is why it can feel unfamiliar or even uncomfortable at first. There is nothing to focus on, nothing to complete, nothing to monitor. The system is left alone with itself. Over time, when this kind of recovery is allowed to happen, its effects become easier to recognize internally. Thoughts feel less dense. Emotions feel less reactive. The body feels less braced. These shifts are subtle, but they are real. They signal that the system has released some of the load it was carrying. Understanding that recovery can look like doing nothing helps reduce self-judgment. It reframes rest as a process rather than a performance. There is no correct way for it to look. If the system is settling, it is working. You do not need to watch this process closely. You do not need to prove that it is happening. The nervous system does not require observation in order to regulate. It only requires space. As this idea rests here, it may gently soften the pressure to make rest visible or justified. Quiet recovery does not announce itself because it does not need to. It does its work beneath the surface, slowly and consistently, allowing the system to return toward balance without asking for recognition or reward. When recovery happens invisibly, it often leaves space for uncertainty to grow. Not because something is wrong, but because the nervous system's needs are not mirrored or reinforced by the world around it. Without external confirmation, people begin to question what they feel internally. The need for alone time becomes something to examine rather than something to trust. This self-doubt rarely arrives as a clear thought. It settles in slowly, as a background feeling. A wondering whether rest is deserved. A subtle pressure to keep going because nothing obvious is stopping you. A comparison with others who seem able to stay engaged longer without consequence. Over time, these small moments of questioning accumulate. Because because quiet recovery leaves no visible evidence. People may assume it should not be necessary. They may tell themselves that if they were stronger, more resilient, or more capable, they would not need to step back so often. This belief does not come from the body. It comes from interpretation. The nervous system signals a need for reduced input, and the mind looks for a reason that fits cultural expectations. This is where self-judgment begins to form. Instead of recognizing the signal as information, it is treated as a flaw. The need for space becomes something to manage, excuse, or minimize. People may push past it gently at first, telling themselves they will rest later. When later never quite arrives, the system remains partially activated. Over time, this pattern can create confusion. The body asks for quiet, but the mind resists. Rest begins to feel unsatisfying because it is taken with one eye still open, still evaluating whether it should be happening at all. The nervous system does not receive the full benefit of recovery when it is paired with self-monitoring. This is not a conscious choice. It is a natural response to living in an environment that values outward energy and visible engagement. When quiet is not recognized as meaningful, the system learns to doubt its own signals. The need for alone time becomes something to justify rather than something to honor. This doubt can also affect sleep. When the nervous system finally reaches a low stimulation environment at night, part of the mind may still be questioning whether it is allowed to settle. Thoughts linger. Attention drifts back toward what should have been done or what might be expected next. Even in stillness, the system stays partially alert. The cost of this pattern is subtle but persistent. The body does not fully release. Rest becomes lighter than it needs to be. The system hovers between engagement and recovery, never fully committing to either. Over time, this can make even long periods of quiet feel insufficient. Understanding this dynamic is important because it removes the idea that self-doubt is a personal failing. It is not a lack of confidence or discipline. It is a byproduct of having needs that are quiet, internal, and easy to overlook. When those needs are questioned repeatedly, the nervous system adapts by staying vigilant, even when it should be resting. There is no need to resolve this doubt actively. It does not require reframing or reassurance in the moment. Simply recognizing that the doubt itself comes from misunderstanding can soften its grip. The nervous system responds to permission more than to explanation. As this understanding settles, it may feel easier to let quiet be quiet without evaluating it. Rest does not need to prove itself in order to work. The body does not need to explain why it needs what it needs. It already knows. You can allow that recognition to remain gently in the background. There is nothing to correct or challenge. The system does not need to be convinced. It only needs conditions where its signals are not questioned, allowing recovery to deepen naturally, without pressure, and without the added weight of self-doubt. When the nervous system's signals for recovery are repeatedly set aside, the effects are rarely immediate or dramatic. There is no clear breaking point. Instead, the cost shows up gradually, as a quiet accumulation of tension that becomes harder to release over time. The system continues to function, continues to engage, but it does so while carrying more activation than it needs to. Ignoring recovery signals does not feel like ignoring a warning. It feels like staying slightly ahead of yourself. The body keeps going. Attention remains available. Responsiveness stays intact. And because nothing appears to be wrong, it becomes easy to believe that rest can always wait a little longer. The nervous system adapts by holding its alert state longer than it was designed to. This prolonged activation changes how rest feels when it finally arrives. Quiet no longer produces immediate relief. The system has been holding tension for so long that releasing it takes more time. Even in low stimulation environments, part of the nervous system remains engaged, scanning for demand that may no longer be present. Rest becomes lighter, less complete. Over time, this can affect emotional clarity. When recovery is delayed, emotions are processed more slowly. Small stressors linger longer than they need to. Reactions feel slightly stronger than expected. Not because emotions are overwhelming, but because the system has not fully reset between inputs. Everything carries a bit of extra weight. Sleep is often where this cost becomes most noticeable. At night, when stimulation finally drops, the nervous system attempts to downshift. But if recovery signals have been ignored repeatedly, that downshift does not happen smoothly. Thoughts continue looping. The body stays partially alert. The system hesitates, unsure whether it is truly safe to let go. This does not mean the system is broken. It means it has learned to stay ready. When quiet has been inconsistent or treated as optional, the nervous system adapts by maintaining a baseline level of vigilance. Even when conditions improve, that vigilance does not disappear immediately. It takes time and consistency for the system to trust that rest will not be interrupted. This is why ignoring the need for alone time can lead to a sense of never fully settling, even when life is calm. The system is no longer responding only to the present moment. It is responding to a pattern where recovery was delayed, shortened, or questioned. The body remembers this pattern and adjusts accordingly. The cost here is not exhaustion in the usual sense. It is a subtle loss of ease, a feeling that rest never quite reaches the depth it used to. A sense that quiet helps, but not as much as it should. These are not signs of failure. They are signs that recovery has not been allowed to complete its cycle. Understanding this cost is not meant to create concern. It is meant to explain why honoring recovery signals matters even when nothing feels urgent. The nervous system does not wait for crisis to need rest. It relies on regular, uninterrupted periods of low stimulation to remain balanced. When those periods are missing or inconsistent, the system compensates by staying active longer. That compensation works in the short term, but it becomes tiring over time. Not in a dramatic way, but in a way that slowly reduces the system's ability to settle. As this idea rests here, it may bring a sense of clarity rather than alarm. Nothing has gone wrong. Nothing has been damaged. The system has simply been doing its best with the conditions it was given. Recovery signals are not demands. They are information. You do not need to respond to this information right now. There is no need to adjust anything or make decisions. Simply understanding that ignoring recovery has a cost helps explain why rest may feel incomplete at times. That understanding alone can begin to soften the system's vigilance. allowing regulation to unfold more naturally as we continue. When the nervous system is given true alone time, something fundamental begins to change beneath awareness. This change is not about mood or thought. It is about arousal, the level of activation the body maintains in order to stay ready for the world. Arousal is what keeps attention sharp, muscles subtly engaged, and awareness oriented outward. It is useful, necessary, and constantly adjusted throughout the day. Social environments, even gentle ones, tend to keep arousal elevated. The nervous system remains prepared to respond. It tracks tone, timing, and presence. It holds a readiness that does not feel tense, but is still active. Over time, this level of activation becomes the background state. The body adapts to it, carrying it quietly without noticing how much energy it requires. Alone time changes this background state by removing the cues that sustain arousal. When there is no expectation of response, no possibility of being addressed, and no need to monitor the environment, the nervous system receives repeated signals that readiness is no longer necessary. These signals do not arrive all at once. They accumulate slowly, moment by moment, as nothing interrupts the quiet. As arousal begins to lower, the body responds in subtle ways. Muscles release further without conscious effort. Breathing becomes less shallow and more rhythmic. The sense of being held upright by attention softens. These shifts are not dramatic. They are gradual and often unnoticed unless the quiet is sustained. Lowering arousal does not mean shutting down. It means moving toward a state where the body is no longer preparing for interaction. The nervous system does not collapse inward. It settles. Awareness remains present, but it is no longer stretched toward the outside world. This state allows internal systems to coordinate more efficiently. For people who need more alone time, this lowering of arousal is especially important. Their nervous systems often operate at a higher baseline level of responsiveness, not because of anxiety or stress, but because they process input deeply. Alone time provides the conditions needed to bring that baseline back down to where it can remain comfortably. This is why brief moments of quiet are sometimes not enough. The nervous system needs consistency. Arousal lowers only when the absence of stimulation continues long enough for the system to trust it. If quiet is interrupted repeatedly, arousal remains partially elevated. The system stays in between, neither fully engaged nor fully resting. When arousal lowers properly, emotional experience changes as well. Feelings become less intense without being suppressed. Reactions slow. There is more space between stimulus and response. This is not a mental skill. It is a physiological effect of reduced activation. The body sets the tone and the mind follows. Lower arousal also supports clarity. Thoughts become less urgent. They still arise, but they do not crowd awareness. The nervous system no longer treats each thought as something that requires attention or action. This makes it easier for the mind to drift without effort, which is especially important as the body prepares for sleep. Sleep itself depends on this process. The nervous system cannot enter deep rest while arousal remains high. It must first receive consistent signals that vigilance is no longer needed. Alone time provides these signals by removing the very conditions that keep arousal elevated during the day. This is not something that needs to be managed or directed. The nervous system already knows how to lower arousal when the environment allows it. There is no technique required. There is only the need for space that remains unchanged long enough for the system to respond. Understanding alone time in this way helps explain why it can feel so regulating without doing anything at all. The value does not come from what happens during quiet. It comes from what stops happening. The nervous system no longer has to maintain readiness, and that release cascades through the body. As this idea rests here, it may become easier to notice how different your internal state feels when arousal is allowed to lower naturally. There is no rush, no demand, no preparation, just a steady movement toward ease that unfolds on its own. You do not need to observe this process closely. The nervous system does not require attention in order to regulate. It responds to conditions, not to monitoring. When those conditions are present, arousal lowers, clarity improves, and the body moves closer to rest without effort. You can allow that understanding to remain quietly in the background as we continue. Nothing needs to be changed or applied. The system is already doing what it knows how to do when given enough space to do it. As arousal continues to lower, another quiet shift begins to take place. Emotional experience starts to feel clearer, not because emotions disappear, but because they are no longer competing with constant activation. The nervous system is no longer braced, and without that background tension, emotions can settle into simpler forms. When arousal is high, emotions tend to feel layered. A feeling may arrive already tangled with urgency, interpretation, or anticipation. Even small emotional signals can feel louder than they need to be, not because they are intense, but because the system is already alert. Everything arrives amplified when the body is on standby. Lower arousal changes the way emotions are processed. The nervous system no longer treats every feeling as a potential signal that requires response. Emotions are allowed to arise without being escalated. They move through the system more cleanly, without attaching themselves to additional thoughts or reactions. This clarity is not about understanding emotions intellectually. It is not about labeling or analyzing what is being felt. In fact, emotional clarity often arrives when the need to explain feelings fades. The system simply experiences them as they are, without urgency or resistance. For people who need more alone time, this shift can feel especially noticeable. When stimulation drops and arousal lowers, emotions that felt confusing or heavy during the day may suddenly feel neutral or manageable. Nothing has been solved. Nothing has changed externally. The nervous system has simply moved into a state where it can process emotion without strain. This is why emotional relief often accompanies quiet, even when nothing specific is done during that time. The relief does not come from distraction or resolution. It comes from the body no longer amplifying signals. Emotions are no longer competing with vigilance. Lower arousal also changes how long emotions stay active. When the system is alert, feelings tend to linger. They are revisited, rechecked, and reinforced by continued activation. When arousal is lower, emotions complete their cycle more easily. They arrive, peak gently and fade without being held in place. This does not mean emotions are suppressed. Suppression requires effort and control. What is happening here is the opposite. The system is relaxed enough to let emotions pass without interference. There is no need to push them away or hold on to them. They are simply allowed. Clarity also brings a sense of neutrality that is often misunderstood. Neutrality does not mean numbness, it means balance. Emotions are present, but they do not dominate awareness. They do not pull attention away from the moment. The nervous system is no longer tilted toward reaction. At night, this shift becomes especially supportive. Emotional clarity makes it easier for the system to let go of unresolved feelings from the day, not because they have been processed cognitively, but because the body is no longer signaling that they need immediate attention. The system recognizes that it is safe to rest. This is an important distinction. Many people assume emotional clarity comes from thinking through feelings. In reality, clarity often comes from reduced arousal. When the body settles, emotions follow. The order matters. Regulation precedes understanding, not the other way around. Understanding this can be deeply relieving. It means emotional ease does not require effort or insight. It requires conditions. When those conditions are present, the nervous system does the work on its own. As this idea rests here, it may help explain why alone time can feel emotionally restorative, even without reflection. The system is not avoiding feelings. It is creating the environment where feelings can settle naturally. You do not need to focus on this process or try to guide it. Emotional clarity does not need encouragement. It arrives as a byproduct of lowered arousal quietly and reliably when the system is given enough uninterrupted space. You can allow this understanding to remain gently in the background as we continue. Nothing needs to be resolved. Nothing needs to be named. The nervous system already knows how to move toward clarity when activation fades, carrying you forward slowly and without effort toward deeper rest. As emotional clarity settles in, another gentle shift follows. The nervous system begins to reduce the number of stress signals it sends through the body. This reduction is not dramatic, and it does not arrive all at once. It happens quietly, as the system recognizes that there is no longer a need to stay alert for what might come next. Stress signals are not only responses to danger or pressure. They are part of how the nervous system maintains readiness. When arousal is elevated, the body stays slightly prepared, even if nothing specific is wrong. Muscles hold a bit more tension. Breathing remains a little shallower. Attention stays lightly engaged, waiting for cues. This state is useful during the day, but it becomes unnecessary once stimulation has dropped. When emotional clarity increases, the nervous system receives confirmation that there is nothing requiring immediate response. Emotions are no longer signaling urgency. Thoughts are no longer demanding action. This absence of urgency allows stress signaling to soften. The system does not need to keep checking or preparing. As stress signals decrease, the body responds in subtle ways. Heart rate slows slightly. Breathing deepens without being directed. The sense of internal pressure eases. These changes are not things you need to notice or track. They happen beneath awareness, as the nervous system recalibrates itself toward a lower baseline. This reduction in stress signaling also affects how the body holds itself. Posture softens, the jaw releases. Small muscles that were engaged unconsciously begin to let go. The body is no longer preparing for engagement or reaction. It is allowed to exist without readiness. For people who need more alone time, this stage is especially important. Their systems often maintain a higher level of readiness during social or stimulating environments. When clarity arrives and stress signals decrease, the contrast can feel profound, even if it is quiet. There is a sense of finally standing down. This does not mean stress disappears completely. It means it is no longer being sustained unnecessarily. The nervous system is not pushing stress signals forward. It is allowing them to fade as they are no longer needed. This is how regulation restores itself naturally. Reduced stress signaling also supports mental quiet. Thoughts become less repetitive. The mind no longer circles the same ideas looking for resolution. Without stress, signals amplifying attention. Thoughts are allowed to pass without being revisited. Awareness becomes more spacious and less sticky. This shift is especially supportive of sleep. The nervous system cannot move into deeper rest while stress signals remain active. It must first receive enough evidence that vigilance is no longer required. Emotional clarity provides that evidence. It tells the system that nothing needs to be managed right now. Importantly, this process does not depend on understanding or intention. The nervous system does not need to be convinced that it is safe. It responds to conditions. When stimulation drops, arousal lowers. When arousal lowers, clarity emerges. When clarity emerges, stress signaling decreases. Each step follows the previous one naturally. This sequence is gentle and circular rather than linear. The system does not rush through it. It settles into it. Each moment of quiet reinforces the message that nothing is being asked. Over time, that message becomes strong enough for the body to trust. As this understanding rests here, it may help explain why rest sometimes feels delayed when stress signals remain active, even in quiet environments. The system needs consistency. It needs the absence of demand to continue long enough for stress signaling to fully ease. You do not need to assist this process. The nervous system already knows how to reduce stress signaling when the environment allows it. There is no technique required. There is only the continuation of quiet. You can allow this idea to remain softly in the background as we move forward. The system is already moving toward lower stress, guided not by effort, but by the steady presence of conditions that ask nothing of it, allowing regulation to deepen naturally as the night continues. When a person realizes they need more alone time than others, the first place the question often turns is inward. The mind looks for meaning in difference. It wonders what this need says about who you are, or whether it points to something that should be adjusted. This questioning is understandable, but it does not come from the body. It comes from interpretation. The nervous system does not label its own signals. It does not judge them as good or bad. It simply responds to conditions. When stimulation accumulates beyond a certain point, the system signals for recovery. That signal is not commentary. It is information. The idea that something might be wrong enters only when the mind tries to explain the signal using external standards. A defect implies malfunction. It suggests that something is broken, inefficient, or incomplete. What is happening here is the opposite. The system is working exactly as it is designed to. It is noticing load, tracking internal state, and requesting conditions that allow balance to return. There is no error in that process. Many people come to see their need for alone time as a flaw because it does not align with what is most visible or rewarded. Energy that turns outward is easy to recognize. Energy that restores inwardly is not. When recovery does not look like effort, the mind may assume it should not be necessary. This assumption does not reflect how regulation actually works. Needing more alone time does not mean you lack social capacity. It does not mean you are disengaged or emotionally distant. It means your system expends energy differently. Just as some systems require more sleep, more quiet, or more stillness to reset, others require more reduction in stimulation. These differences are not hierarchies. They are variations. The belief that something is wrong often creates an additional layer of tension. Instead of simply resting, the mind monitors the resting. It questions whether it should be happening. It watches for signs that the need is excessive or unjustified. This self-observation keeps the nervous system partially alert, even in silence. When the need for alone time is treated as a defect, recovery becomes conditional. Quiet is allowed only if it can be explained. Stillness is permitted and only if it can be justified. The nervous system does not respond well to conditions placed on regulation. It requires consistency, not approval. Removing the idea of defect allows the system to relax more fully. The need for space no longer carries a question mark. It becomes a neutral signal rather than a problem to solve. When the mind stops interrogating the signal, the body can complete its regulatory cycle without interference. This shift is subtle, but it matters. The nervous system settles more deeply when it does not feel observed or evaluated. It releases more fully when it does not have to defend its own needs. Acceptance does not force regulation. It removes resistance to it. For many people, this realization does not arrive as a sudden insight. It comes as a gradual softening. The pressure to compare fades. The urge to justify quiet weakens. The system feels less scrutinized. These changes do not need to be dramatic to be meaningful. Understanding that this need is not a defect also changes how rest feels at night. Sleep becomes more accessible when the mind is not questioning whether rest is deserved. The body responds to this shift by releasing vigilance more easily. Quiet feels safer when it is not framed as avoidance. Nothing about this understanding requires action. There is nothing to correct or practice. The nervous system does not need instruction. It needs conditions where its signals are trusted rather than questioned. As this idea rests here, you can allow it to settle without effort. There is nothing about you that needs to be fixed. The need for alone time is not a flaw in your design. It is part of how your system maintains balance. The night does not ask you to be different. It allows you to be as you are. And when the mind is no longer searching for what might be wrong, the body is free to continue its natural movement toward ease, clarity, and rest without carrying the weight of self-judgment any longer. One of the quiet misunderstandings around alone time comes from how regulation is imagined. It is often pictured as something linear. A problem appears. It is addressed. Balance is restored. The system moves on. But nervous system regulation does not work this way. It moves in cycles, not straight lines, and those cycles repeat continuously, whether they are noticed or not. Throughout the day, stimulation rises and falls. Attention opens and closes. Engagement increases and then softens. These shifts are natural and constant. The nervous system is always adjusting its level of arousal in response to what is happening around it. There is no final state where regulation is complete. There is only ongoing movement toward and away from activation. For people who need more alone time, this cycle has a particular shape. Activation rises more quickly during stimulation and takes longer to settle afterward. That does not mean the system is inefficient. It means the system processes more before it releases. Alone time is the part of the cycle where that release can finally occur. When regulation is understood as linear, needing repeated periods of quiet can feel confusing. The mind may wonder why rest was needed again so soon, or why balance did not hold. But regulation was never meant to hold indefinitely. It is meant to be revisited. The system does not fail when it asks for recovery more than once. It is completing its cycle. This cyclical nature explains why alone time can feel necessary even after positive experiences. Enjoyment still costs energy. Meaningful connection still requires presence. The nervous system does not distinguish between good stimulation and bad stimulation when it comes to load. It responds to quantity and intensity, not emotional value. Because of this, the need for quiet can return even when nothing has gone wrong. The system is not reacting to distress. It is responding to accumulation. When stimulation has reached its threshold, the next phase of the cycle begins naturally. That phase is reduction. Reduction is not regression. It is not a step backward. It is how the system resets its baseline so it can engage again later without strain. Without reduction, the cycle cannot complete. Activation would simply stack on top of itself, and regulation would become harder over time. This is where misunderstanding often arises. If reduction is seen as unnecessary or indulgent, the cycle is interrupted. The system remains partially activated, waiting for a release that never fully arrives. Over time, this interruption can make the need for alone time feel more urgent, not because the system is failing, but because it has not been allowed to complete its natural rhythm. Understanding regulation as cyclical removes this urgency. It reframes alone time as a phase rather than a reaction. The system is not pulling away from life. It is moving through its own rhythm. Activation and rest are not opposites. They are partners in the same process. This perspective also softens comparison. When regulation is seen as a cycle, there is no standard pace. Some cycles are shorter, some are longer. Some require more quiet to complete. None of this says anything about capacity or resilience. It only reflects how the system returns to balance. At night, this cyclical pattern becomes especially visible. Stimulation drops, engagement fades. The system enters its reduction phase more fully. For many people, this is the first time all day that the cycle is allowed to complete without interruption. That completion feels like relief, not because something was wrong before, but because the system finally reached the part of the cycle it was waiting for. Sleep depends on this completion. The nervous system cannot move into deeper rest while a cycle remains unfinished. It must first release the activation it has been holding. Alone time supports this release by removing the cues that keep the cycle suspended. Nothing needs to be done to manage this process. The nervous system already knows how to move through its cycles. It only requires conditions that do not interrupt them. Quiet, consistency, and the absence of demand allow the cycle to unfold naturally. As this understanding settles, it may become easier to trust the return of the need for alone time. It is not a setback. It is not a sign that rest did not work. It is the system continuing to move through its rhythm, exactly as it is meant to. You do not need to track where you are in this cycle. You do not need to time it or optimize it. The system does not require management. It responds to conditions. When those conditions are present, regulation continues on its own. There is a quiet shift that happens when the nervous system no longer feels misunderstood. It is not dramatic, and it does not announce itself. It shows up as a subtle easing, a softening of internal tension that had been held in place by explanation rather than experience. When the need for alone time is understood as regulation, the system no longer has to brace against interpretation. For a long time, the mind may have been trying to make sense of this need by fitting it into familiar categories: preference, habit, personality, strength, weakness. These explanations can feel close, but not quite right. They describe the surface, not the mechanism. And when explanations do not fully match experience, the system stays slightly alert, as though something is unresolved. Understanding changes that dynamic, not in an intellectual way, but in a physiological one. When the mind stops questioning why quiet helps, the nervous system receives a signal that it does not need to justify itself. That signal alone lowers background vigilance. The body responds by settling more deeply, because there is no longer a need to defend its own rhythms. Being understood, even internally, is regulating. When a system feels seen accurately, it no longer has to maintain readiness for correction. It does not have to anticipate being pushed past its limits or pulled away from its needs. That anticipation is a form of stimulation. Removing it creates space. This is why understanding can feel calming even when nothing else changes. The environment may remain the same. The amount of alone time may not increase. And yet, rest feels more effective. The system is no longer carrying the extra load of self-explanation. Quiet is allowed to do its work without interference. For many people, this is the first time the experience of needing space feels neutral. Not something to hide, not something to defend. Just a part of how regulation happens. That neutrality is important. It removes emotional charge from the need itself, allowing the nervous system to approach quiet without tension. This internal understanding also affects how the system anticipates rest. Instead of waiting for quiet with a sense of guilt or hesitation, the system begins to move toward it naturally. There is less resistance, less second-guessing. The body recognizes the conditions it needs and responds without delay. At night, this shift can be especially noticeable. When the mind no longer frames alone time as avoidance or withdrawal, the nervous system does not stay alert for judgment. It feels safer to let go. Sleep becomes easier, not because the body is tired, but because it is no longer guarding itself. This sense of being understood does not require external validation. It does not depend on others agreeing or acknowledging anything. The nervous system responds primarily to internal coherence. When the explanation matches the experience, regulation deepens. This coherence allows the system to complete processes that were previously held open. Emotional responses settle more fully. Physical tension releases more completely. Thoughts lose their urgency. These changes do not require attention or effort. They unfold because the system no longer needs to stay prepared for misunderstanding. It is important to note that understanding does not mean labeling. The nervous system does not benefit from being categorized. It benefits from being accurately interpreted. The difference is subtle. Labels fix identity. Understanding explains function. One creates boundaries, the other creates permission. When the need for alone time is understood functionally, the system is freed from identity-based judgment. It is no longer about what kind of person you are. It is about how your system restores balance. That shift removes a great deal of unnecessary weight. This is why relief can arrive simply from hearing an explanation that fits. Nothing needs to be implemented. Nothing needs to be changed. The system recognizes itself in the description, and that recognition is enough to soften its grip on vigilance. As this understanding settles, you may notice a quieter internal tone. Less urgency, less self-monitoring, more willingness to let quiet be quiet. These are signs that the nervous system feels safer in its own rhythms. You do not need to hold on to this idea or repeat it. The system does not require reinforcement once it has been received. Understanding integrates on its own, becoming part of the background rather than something that needs attention. You can allow this section to rest here gently. Nothing is being asked of you. Nothing is being corrected. The system has simply been offered an explanation that matches its experience. And when that happens, regulation continues naturally, guided not by effort or intention, but by the quiet relief of finally being understood. As we come to the end of this quiet exploration, there is nothing that needs to be concluded or summarized. Nothing here was meant to persuade or convince. The ideas were not offered as instructions or insights to carry forward. They were simply placed gently in the space, allowing the nervous system to recognize itself in them, if it needed to. Needing more alone time was never framed here as a preference, a trait, or a problem to solve. It was described as a pattern of regulation, one that some systems follow naturally. Not better, not worse, just different in how balance is restored. When that difference is understood, the system no longer has to remain alert for correction. Understanding does not add anything to the nervous system. It removes something. It removes the pressure to explain. It removes the background question of whether rest is allowed. It removes the need to stay slightly awake even in quiet, watching for judgment or interruption. When those layers fall away, stillness becomes easier to enter. At night, this matters more than we often realize. Sleep does not arrive because the body is exhausted. It arrives because the system feels safe enough to let go. Safety, in this sense, does not mean the absence of danger. It means the absence of demand. Alone time provides that absence, and understanding allows the body to trust it. There is nothing you need to take from this into tomorrow. No lesson to remember, no change to make. The nervous system does not benefit from plans or intentions in this moment. It benefits from continuity, from the sense that nothing new is being asked of it. If your system needs quiet in order to reset, it already knows that. It does not need permission, but it does respond to it. Allowing that need to exist without question creates the conditions where regulation can finish its work. As stimulation remains low, arousal continues to ease. Stress signals soften. Emotional tone steadies. The body recognizes that the day has ended, not because a clock says so, but because demand has faded. These cues matter more than any conscious effort to rest. You do not need to guide this process. You do not need to monitor it. The nervous system does not require supervision in order to settle. It responds to consistency, to quiet that stays quiet, to stillness that is not interrupted by expectation. If thoughts drift, that is fine. If they fade, that is fine. There is no correct experience here. Sleep does not require a certain kind of quiet. It arrives when the system feels unobserved, unjudged, and unneeded for a while. You may notice the body feeling heavier, or lighter, or simply less defined. These sensations do not need interpretation. They are signs of release, not signals to attend to. The system is turning inward because there is nothing left to manage outwardly. Alone time, in this moment, is not withdrawal. It is not retreat. It is not absence. It is a return to baseline, where nothing is being asked and nothing is missing. The nervous system rests most deeply when it is allowed to exist without role or function. If sleep arrives now, you do not need to notice it. If it takes longer, that is fine as well. Rest is not an event. It is a gradual softening, one layer at a time. The system knows how to reach it when the conditions remain gentle. There is nothing else coming in this moment. No new idea, no final thought. Just the continuation of quiet, carrying forward on its own. You can allow the night to take over from here. Good night.